Hi, this is Jane with GreenBiz. Today we're going to talk about pollinators. Do you know what a pollinator is? It is an insect or animal or human being even who pollinates the plants. That means they take the pollen off of one flower and they bring it to another flower of the same species of plants. So we're going to talk a little bit about the kinds of plants that you should have in your garden probably if you want to attract pollinators. We're going to talk about some of the problems that pollinators are facing and how you can help. We're sitting over in the garden center today because, well, they've got lots of pollinators over here. So the pollinators that we are going to be talking about will be, first of all, bees. There's butterflies. There's other kinds of insects like moths, beetles. There are other animals like, say rabbits or mice. I guess in some parts of the world there's monkeys that do pollinating. And there are people. Did you know that all of those creatures are needed to help pollinate different kinds of plants? So when we think about pollinators, often we think about the insects. We're going to be talking about insects. So insects will go from one plant of the species to another plant of the same species. And they take the pollen from this plant over to this plant. What are some of those pollinators? We all know about, for instance, bees. There's many different species of bees. Some bees are a little better than others at doing the pollinating. The bees get the pollen on their body and then they literally kind of do this little dance to get it off onto the other plants. They also have these little baskets on their legs. I don't know, I've never seen them, but this is what I read, that they can put the pollen into. It's kind of interesting. Another insect, of course, we've seen are butterflies. We love to watch the butterflies. They're like little flowers dancing around through your garden. The monarchs, we've all heard of monarchs and that they're having some issues. There's just not as many as there used to be. There's swallowtails and there's all other kinds of butterflies. Butterflies are also great pollinators. They go from one plant to another to another. Moths don't get the same billing as butterflies. They're usually not quite as pretty. But moths will often go to flowers and plants that butterflies don't. Another thing about moths is they will often visit the nighttime flowers, the ones that are open at night, where the butterflies are, I don't know, sleeping, I guess. Of course, I said there's beetles, and I imagine any other type of insect that is going from one plant to another. Carry a little bit of pollen on them, and they pollinate that next plant. There's also birds, like hummingbirds. Hummingbirds are known for going pollinating from one plant to another to another. And they're busy all the time. You know, hummingbirds have to eat a lot, so they have to visit lots and lots of plants just to stay alive. And so they are a great pollinator in your garden. Again, anything that's carrying the pollen from one place to another. So your little rodents, people. Maybe it brushes against you, or you may actually purposely pollinate one plant to another. So there's all types of pollinators that come to your garden. It's very important to have different kinds of plants that are available for all these different pollinators. Because by having a wide selection of plants, you are inviting all these other pollinators to come into your garden. You're making it, well, I guess just really hospitable. And something for you is that it makes your garden so beautiful. Some of the first pollinators that I'm going to talk about are perennials. Perennials, of course, are plants that come back every year. Yarrow is one of the plants. See that beautiful yellow flower that butterflies love to come to? This is a great plant to have for pollinators. Here I have in my hand two different kinds of salvia. Now salvia is a plant that comes both annual and perennial. These particular ones are perennial. This particular one has a red flower, and this one, although it isn't blooming yet, will have a very deep blue flower. The salvias, are plants that especially your hummingbirds like. Now you probably have all heard that hummingbirds really like the color red, and they do. But this black and blue salvia, they will come to this before they hit any of the other red flowers over in the garden. So, salvia is a great flower to have in your garden. These are annuals. Now I know a lot of people, they want to have perennials, and they'll say, I'm not going to buy annuals because they just die every year. That is true, but if you don't have a few annuals in your garden, well, first of all, you're eliminating a whole lot of the beauty that you can have in your garden. But the other thing is that there's a lot of annuals that help your pollinators. These are snapdragons. Snapdragons are great flowers, especially in the spring and then also into the early fall. They absolutely love those little bit cooler temperatures. So snapdragons, and snapdragons come in all kinds of colors, and they're just kind of fun. You can actually take these off and you kind of go snap with them, and well, they're just kind of fun to play with too. Okay, so snapdragons. A lot of people like lavender. It smells so nice. Lavender is also a wonderful plant to have in your garden. There are lavenders that say they are perennial. Here in Fayetteville, I gotta tell you, we just haven't had real great luck with them staying as a perennial. The reason is that it gets so hot and so humid here in the summer. Buy them as an annual, enjoy them, and probably just count that they're gonna not come back next year. These two plants are actually herbs. You would plant these in your herb garden and you can eat them. Parsley, chives. Both of these are plants that will attract pollinators. The chives attract the pollinators because if you let these go, if you don't eat them all right away, they'll get little purple flowers on the top, which pollinators love, like your bees, your butterflies. I plant parsley in my garden because this plant is where the black swallowtail butterflies likes to lay its eggs. There's many times in the summer I'll come out to my parsley plant and there'll be these caterpillars crawling all over it and eating it. Those are the precursors to the black swallowtail butterfly. And so I'm actually planting something that I can enjoy up until that time, and then it is a food source for that butterfly. If you're thinking about attracting monarchs like the milkweed, I'm sorry, I don't have any milkweed to show you right now, but milkweed is the only plant that they will lay their eggs on and what the caterpillars eat. So if you can get milkweed plants, that's really important to the monarch butterflies. And you are likely to attract monarch butterflies to your garden because there's food for them to eat and for their babies to grow on. In your garden, you probably have other plants besides just annuals and perennials. Any plant that has flowers will attract your pollinators. I have in my hand a rose, and this is a spirea. These are both blooming right now. They smell good, not only to me, but probably to those pollinators too. Anyway, so if you have different plants in your yard that have flowers, that's a good way to bring the pollinators to your yard. Another plant that we have that attracts pollinators is the butterfly bush. This one is just starting to come out because it is still pretty early spring. This will have flowers all summer long, and bees and butterflies love the butterfly bush. Besides that, you get to enjoy the beautiful flowers. Butterfly bushes come in different sizes and different colors, as of course do roses and many other plants. So you can find a shrub or even trees that will fit your landscape and attract the pollinators. You have probably heard that pollinators are having a hard time. For instance, the monarch butterflies, there's just not as many as there used to be when I was a kid. Bees, you may have heard of colony collapse. That's where the whole colony just kind of leaves the hive, and they're not quite sure why it is. But some of the factors on that one, at least, could be illness in the bees. It could be the practices of the beekeeper. It could also be something like mites that affect the bees, and it could be weather. It could be any number of different things. Anyway, there's a lot of factors that are affecting pollinators and are making it really hard for them. One thing I've noticed around my area lately is the lumber industry cutting down all kinds of trees. That's natural habitat for these pollinators. Where are they supposed to go? You as a homeowner can help the pollinators, and you can do that by planting many different kinds of plants in your yard that will attract them, and that will be food sources, well, and it will also be beauty for you. The pollinators themselves are so beautiful that it's something that you would like to have in your yard. Well, at least I would. If you have questions about anything on this video or about other things, you can leave a comment in the comment section. This is Jane with GreenBiz, wishing you a very good day and have a very happy spring.